Hello, it's Jennifer from heysealemon. With Valentine's Day coming up, I really wanted to try a bookbinding method which included heart shapes. And in this tutorial, I will show you how to make a fun heart stitch notebook using plastic canvas mesh. This stuff is used for needle art like embroidery, and I thought it would lend itself really well to bookbinding stitches. This DIY notebook could make a really nice gift, whether it be for Valentine's Day or any other occasion, and I kept it simple by making lines of thread in heart shapes, but you could also try different shapes or different colors of thread. As usual, I will include all of the supplies I used, including links in the video description below. And by the way, if you want to see more book projects, I have a whole playlist full of them, so be sure to check that out. I will include a card up here and put the link down below. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. I upload something new every week, and be sure to hit that like button if you want more bookbinding videos. All right, let's get into it. For the pages, I'll be using 13 sheets of letter-size paper and 1 sheet of this patterned cardstock in the same size. Fold each sheet in half on the long side, and you can run a bone folder along the edge to make it flat. And also do the same process to the cardstock. After everything is folded in half, I'm then going to cut the pages in half to make a smaller sized book. I'll be doing this with a paper trimmer, but you can also do this with a craft blade and a ruler. When you cut each sheet in half, you should get 2 smaller sized ones, which are the same size. After everything has been cut, including the cardstock, I'm going to make signatures, and a signature is just 4 folded sheets stacked together. Repeat that with all of the folded sheets, and when you get to the last 6 folded sheets, you're going to use those for the cardstock. So stack 3 of the folded sheets into one of the cardstock, and then you have 4 folded sheets together. The only difference is the cardstock is a heavier weight, and those signatures will be the front and back cover. For the spine, where the heart stitches will be, I'm using white plastic canvas mesh, and this also comes in different colors. To mark the stitch layout, you need a way to hold and stack the signatures together. I'll be using my DIY book press for this, but you can also use a vise, clamps, or even use your lap, your legs, to kind of hold the pages together while you work on it. You need them held together but loose enough so you can flip through them like this. Next, you're going to mark off as many columns as you have signatures to make the width of the mesh piece. Also cut it out to be the same height as your book. So to measure all of this out, I have 7 signatures, so I need 7 columns, and the whole piece will be the same height as my pages. Next, I'll show you how I marked the heart stitches. Using a marker in the same color as my thread, I marked out hearts on the top and bottom. Here it is a little bit easier to see on a white background, so I just drew out a symmetrical heart, it kind of looks like a pixel heart, and repeated that same heart pattern on the bottom of the mesh piece, making dots on the rows of mesh so I have an idea of where the line of thread will go. And if you want to, you can sketch your design out on a piece of grid paper before you do this to get an idea of what your pattern will look like. And if you mess up, no worries, I found it easy to just take my finger and rub off any mistakes that I made with a marker. So I repeated that same symmetrical heart in the middle of the mesh to make an even column of hearts. Now I'm going back to the signatures with my mesh piece for the spine, and I'm going to use the mesh as a template to mark the holes on the signatures. Now remember, you're only stitching a line of thread, so you only need to mark the top and bottom of that column. So you don't need to go through each square to mark a hole, just the top and bottom of the shape of the heart. You'll have to go through each signature, lining it up with that column on the mesh to mark all of the holes. This may seem a little tedious, but once you get going, it really doesn't take that long to do. After you've marked off all of the signatures, you'll then see your heart design on the spine. And throughout this whole process, it's important to keep all of the signatures in the same order. Start with the first signature, open it up but still keep it stacked together, and pierce through the marks you made with an awl, and this will make the holes for the binding. Fold it back up, and again make sure it's in the same order as you marked them, and you can set it aside and continue that same process with the rest of the signatures. If you don't have an awl, you can also do this with a thumbtack. After all of the holes are made, we can then set up the thread for binding. I'm using cotton craft thread. You'll need a piece for each signature, and you can cut off a little bit extra than the length of the signature. You can use an embroidery or bookbinding needle, single thread it with no knot on the end, and start with the first signature. This is very similar to saddle stitch binding. It's pretty much saddle stitch binding onto the mesh, so this should be easy for you if you're familiar with that. You're going to start on the bottom, stitching through your signature to the mesh, and work your way up to the top. Weaving from the outside to the inside, and on the bottom, you're going to tie those two pieces of thread in a knot, and trim off any excess. Continue on weaving the needle from the inside to the outside while still binding on the piece of mesh, working your way up to the top. When you're at the last hole on the inside, tie the rest of the thread in a knot to the previous stitch, and cut off any excess. Now you're going to repeat that same process with the rest of the signatures. Cut a new piece of thread for the next signature, single thread your needle, line up that signature with the mesh piece, and stitch from the inside to the outside just like you did with the previous signature. I think it really helps to keep the sketched out design on your mesh so you can use that as a guide as you sew on your signatures. The marks may rub off a little, but if you use a marker that's the same color as your thread, you won't be able to see them in the end because the thread will be going over them. You'll need to cut a new piece of thread for each signature, and you can just keep stitching them on just like you did the very first one, stitching from one end to the other and tying off the thread in a knot on the inside of the signature. And here is what the finished heart stitch book looks like. This is the first time I've used mesh on a bookbinding project, and I think it turned out really cute. I like the heart stitches on the spine. I like that the book lays flat so it's easy to draw or journal in. And this makes a sweet little notebook to give as a gift. If you try this out, I would love to see pictures of your notebooks, so share those with me on my social links, follow me while you're there, and add a hashtag #heysealemon. And in the comments below, I would love to read what tutorials you want to see on this channel. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my videos, and if you want more heart-related DIYs, check out my Valentine's Day playlist. And if you want to try another heart stitch book, try out this ribbon binding right here. I made it a few years ago, but you can easily switch out the ribbon for a heart shape. All those links will be down below, and I will see you guys next time.